Hey everyone, this is BT, and on this edition of Inside the Episode, David and I are talking all about how you can shift anger into gratitude during the most difficult of times. David, thanks first of all for going through this episode with everyone. I think it was a good reminder about how whatever situation you find yourself in, whether it's a part of the situation we're in now or whether it's what happened 2, 5, 10 years ago,
Yeah,
gratitude should always be a part of your life.
100%.
Yeah. So I think it's safe to say that this episode was all about practicing gratitude and how we should be consciously aware of what we have in our life and try to stay away from the things that we don't have or the things that are not going right. And that's a powerful mindset shift, for sure. So I guess where I would start for the listeners, if you could help them through this, what can a person do right now to start making that shift today, even on the most smallest of levels, to get things moving in the right direction?
So that's a great question, and I think it kind of depends on the individual. How conscious is that person as far as the importance of gratitude in their life? Like, the reason that I brought the science of getting rich into this teaching was I wanted to emphasize the relationship, not just the gratitude, because I think I've talked about gratitude several times over the past couple of weeks. But I wanted to talk about the specific relationship that gratitude keeps us connected to: God, spirit, source, energy, universe. I always do that because I want everybody, whatever their spiritual, religious beliefs are, to be able to hear it in the way that they need to hear it. So I know I beat that like a dead horse, but I think it's very important. So that's kind of why. But we have to really understand at a basic level that we're in a relationship with that creative power. And how do we relate to it? It's not any really different than a relationship that you would have with your husband or your wife or your kids or anybody. So if you think about it from a humanistic perspective, if I'm in a relationship with someone and I'm always angry and bitter and negative, that person's not going to want to be around me. They're not going to want to interact with me. I'm not going to get good things from them. They're going to kind of shut down. Well, with God or spirit, it doesn't shut down because it has a modus operandi, and that is more life. It always is growing something. But so that's where the consciousness part comes in, because if we really look at life itself, we see that both what we call good things and bad things grow, right? You have great things in life, you have bad things in life. In a lot of cases, we could say that this virus thing is a bad thing. And it's right now, it's in a growth phase. So what grows it? Did somebody do something wrong? Like, is this karma? I've heard all kinds of crazy stories out there. It's none of that. It's that it had the perfect opportunity and the perfect situation to do whatever it is that it does. So if we can understand that this energy will grow anything, then we can do something. And we have to ask ourselves where we are. Are you in a position right now where you don't really understand that relationship? If you don't, start reading about it, right? Read the book, The Science of Getting Rich. Read James Allen, As a Man Thinketh. Read who am I thinking of? Neil Donald Walsh, Conversations with God. Like, those 3 books that he wrote are unbelievable in helping us understand the true nature of the creative spirit or energy or God, like whatever you call it. Start there if that's where you are, because then it makes sense to you as to why we should start looking with a grateful eye towards things. I thoroughly understand that there's a lot of people out there that have had a rough life and they don't feel like they have much to be grateful for. And it sounds like a slap in the face to them when you say, be grateful, be grateful. There's a family out there that lost 4 people from this fucking virus in the same family. You're going to say to them, be grateful? Like, they're hurting terribly. There's people that are really hurting over this. So if you understand there's a reason behind the gratitude, and it's not just, hey, be positive, man, like be positive. It's not what it is. It's about, I literally have a choice on how my outcome can be right now. And if I understand the elements that create that, then I have an intellectual idea of what I want, and I begin to understand the power of that relationship. So is it understanding the relationship? Is that the first step for the person? Is the first step for the person literally starting to outline what they're already grateful for by kind of thinking about, what was I grateful for a few weeks ago? Am I still grateful for those things? What can I be grateful for going forward? So I think that the person is starting in one of those two areas, but I really want to emphasize, if a person doesn't understand the relationship, do some work on understanding the relationship. Understand from a spiritual or even scientific perspective why practicing gratitude is actually important, what it really does for a person. You could study it from a psychiatric perspective. You could study it from a health perspective. It has benefits all across the board in a positive way for our life versus staying in anger or not understanding it all.
Yeah, that's great. I'm glad you brought this up, because this has been my journey as over the course of the last 3 weeks, because, at the time of this recording, we will have been basically in, self quarantine isolation for the last 3 weeks with
Yeah.
very or little human contact outside of our immediate family. So, I've been referring often in my conversations about the cycle of grief and the 5 cycles that we go through when we're grieving, because that's what I've gone through. At first there was denial, and then I was angry, and I was angry for an extended period of time. And it was in that anger, that dip, that I wasn't practicing gratitude at all. And it was a defeatist way of looking at things. It was a hopelessness way of looking at things. And it didn't get me any closer to getting out of it. It just brought me deeper and deeper. So I love that you brought that up about how important it is to, even when things are at their darkest, there are things to look forward to. Like we spoke about on a recent recording we did about how, springtime is not paying any attention to the coronavirus. The leaves are still in full bloom. The flowers are pushing up through the ground. It's a time of life and living. And I know it may sound insensitive, because there are people who are dying, and you mentioned the family who has lost multiple people, and my heart breaks for those people. But it also got me thinking a little bit about something that's been on my mind about me judging myself for now shifting more into gratitude while people are still in pain. So I guess what I'm looking at by way of a question is, or a little insight from you about, how do we avoid being too sunny of a disposition when we know that there are people that are hurting? Coronavirus hasn't personally affected me or my immediate family, but I know people who it has affected. But I still want to maintain a strong mindset around, I want to be grateful. So I'm not asking for your permission to be grateful, but how do I avoid judging myself when I look on the bright side of things when I know it's not bright for everyone?
So I would ask a person, if I was literally having a conversation with someone about this, why do they feel that they can't feel good because somebody else doesn't? Like, what is the reason? Where did the story come from that that's not okay? But it's an interesting thing, T, because so many people feel that way. They feel guilty if they're doing better, or they feel good, or they're not having that experience feeling that way because somebody is actually in a bad state. I don't think it does anybody any good for us to be down because somebody else is down. Like, I do think that you probably wouldn't go up to them all cheery and happy and ignoring what they're going through. That's not compassion. So, the word compassion actually means to suffer with. Like, if
Oh,
you look up the word, it means to suffer with. So the idea of suffering with someone is I think an intellectual emotional understanding, like being present for their pain, but not taking it on where it actually negatively affects us. I think that's very important. So but I don't think that there's any positivity. There's no benefit in any way for us to feel bad just because somebody else is feeling bad. I think we can have compassion, we can have love, we can understand the grieving. But I would just ask a person, where's that coming from? Like, where did that story start, and how is, obviously we see how it's affecting your life, but what is that?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't serve you to be down because somebody is affected more than you are. I mean, I guess, and I'm glad you said that, because it was really sort of bothering me, because, I know there's a lot of backlash happening right now. These people in Hollywood are using their platform to try and spread, peace and cheer and, openness around what we're all going through. But a lot of times it comes out a little bit hollow. So I'm speaking about in reference specifically to the Imagine video, where a bunch of stars got together and sang that beautiful song by John Lennon, and it got just torn to shreds. And I don't think they went into it, wanting to be viral sensations on the negative side of things. They were just trying to provide a little bit, a sea of calm in a crazy, crazy storm, but they just got ripped to shreds. And it got me thinking about how I should be feeling. And, I'm glad you did bring up the guilty feelings, because I'm sure there's people out there that feel that way, but it doesn't serve anyone, especially myself, to be negative, 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 sad, 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 when it's just going to repeat more of the same.
Can
So
you tell me what? So I heard about that, but I don't. What? So why did they, in the people that ripped them to shreds? What did they say? Why were they ripping them?
I think the short of it is that, okay, you're in Hollywood, you've got plenty of money in your bank account, you are wealthy, so you can sit here and say, imagine the possibilities, it's going to be okay. It's easy to do that when you have the finances and you know where your next meal's coming from. You know that your rent is going to be paid. You know all your other amenities are not going to take a hit. And I sort of fall underneath that area too, because, you talked about supply chains. We have had no issues getting groceries here delivered to our door. We've had no issues having to worry about cutting back or usage. We've built up enough of a nest egg to be able to survive this. There's a lot of people out there that can't. Not only that, but it comes across a little bit insensitive when you're trying to say, you're like me, you're just like me, and you're not like me. You just had a blockbuster movie that, grossed $1 billion in China. You are not like me. And I feel for those people in Hollywood, but I also can see why some people get a little upset because of, how can you liken your situation to mine? We're all in this together. We're all in the same situation, but we're not really in the same situation, right? So I
Yeah.
think that's where the majority of the frustration came from people. I watched it. I had a chuckle. I didn't feel like angry towards them, but there are a lot of people who are saying, people in Hollywood have too much time on their hands. I'm just going to go through my situation. You don't need to be poking your nose in it. I guess that's what it is. I don't know.
Gotcha. Well, and I understand that. And one of the reasons that I understand it is because I think I don't think I was one of those people that was a have not, and I literally didn't have anything. And there was a time in my life when I was very angry at people that did. So what I learned in that situation was that attitude, that belief system was not changing my situation. My whole story was about discovering, learning how to get out of that situation. And, I was broke. I didn't have anything, was bankrupt. Like, life really sucked. But it was those ideas, like imagine, like gratitude, like, all the ideas that I talk about that allowed me to change that situation, right? So I imagine that there's probably people that also think the same way about me. Like, he's got plenty of money, he's got a business, he's doing this from his big house, you know, um, what does he have to like, how, it's easy for him to say in this situation. I'm offering information that moved me from the place of pain that a lot of people are in right now to a different place. Yes, I do have it better than a lot of people do, but I didn't always. And it was that process that allowed me to go from one place to another. So I like to see everybody come out of that place. But what they have to understand is that they unconsciously, they're the one that's keeping themselves there. And if they become conscious, they can make different choices to get themselves out of there. So while I understand their frustration, um, the anybody that would be judgmental, I would say, why are you judging? What are you really so angry about? And my guess is the same reason that I was angry when I was in that situation. I felt unempowered. I didn't know that I had a choice to change anything. So I think it makes a lot of sense. I don't think that people should stop putting out positive messages because they have people that are angry. Their anger really isn't at the people in Hollywood, right? The people in Hollywood didn't do anything to them. They didn't do anything to create this situation. They're trying to be part of the positive solution. But it's just, it's interesting because we talked about this before, all the different things that people are lashing out at right now because they don't seem to have a channel for their own frustration. They don't have answers, that type of thing. But
Yeah,
gratitude,
no.
that
Oh, 100%. I mean, gratitude is obviously the kryptonite to anger. It's difficult when you are so deeply rooted in anger to see the bright side of things. But I would say that was like week 2 for me. Like the entire week was just full of nonstop anger. Like, and then what would happen was you'd be angry about something and then something in the house would break, or you'd be angry about something and you'd kick the end table and stub your toe, or you would go outside and then it would rain. Like there was all these things that were happening. So one of the things that I know from you is the laws don't only work during the best of times. The laws also work during the lean and difficult times. So if you're out there and you were having a great go of life and all of a sudden you're not, chances are there's a shift that happened internally that is you not practicing gratitude, and not only practicing gratitude, but meaning and being direct with how you practice. You actually mentioned that a little bit in this episode about how, gratitude just for the sake of gratitude is not often enough. You've got to direct it towards a specific way. Can you talk a little bit more about how to effectively direct gratitude so that it's making the most of any situation?
so gratitude itself. So when we practice gratitude, let's understand this. We're actually moving into a conscious state of mind when we do this. So we're not on autopilot. We're saying, okay, I am going to practice gratitude. Why are you doing that? Well, because number one, it changes your emotional state. It allows you to focus on what you actually have that's good in your life, because everybody has good and bad in their life, right? It's the opposite side of the same thing. Everybody has challenges. It allows you to step into that consciousness. Now, when you step into that consciousness, and we're going to do this on a podcast that we do right after this, where we talk about how does a person stay positive in their life. The idea is that goals themselves give life direction. When I set a goal, I am saying, here's something that I want to be, do, or have. Here's the direction I want to move myself in. And it basically every day I know that I get up and this is what I'm working towards. This is something that I'm consciously creating my life. If I can only see negative, then I can't see how to create that goal because I'm focused on the negative. So I use gratitude to help me stay in the mindset of not only why am I consciously creating my life, but how do I stay in an energy that allows the creative energy in the universe to easily flow into my life with the opportunities? Because the universe doesn't create confusion in people's lives. It's always very clear, and it's always bringing us the opportunities. The problem is that if we're in any kind of a negative mindset, generally we can't see the opportunity because we're disguising it with our own fog. We're telling our brain, look for what's making me angry, look for something that verifies my anger, look for something that verifies my fear, look for something that verifies my depression. And yet, if I change to gratitude, I'm giving the same command to my mind, look for something to be grateful for. Now, that opens a door. So if I attach that to an opportunity, look for something to be grateful for, I'm now going to see the benefit of the opportunity and not the detriment of an opportunity, because both of those things will exist. right? If I only see the sacrifice in an opportunity, I'm gonna be like, what the hell do I want to do that for, right? Because I can't see the benefit of it. So gratitude allows me to see the benefit in the opportunity. It's a conscious process. It's a way of consciously using choice to direct our mind to focus on seeing what it needs that's already here in the universe. So that's why.
Yeah, I love that you bring opportunities into this, and you talked about it in the episode as well. Um, the opportunities are still here, and they never went away. There's still opportunity to do great things and to feel good and to move through this. But the channels with which those things are distributed have now changed significantly. Obviously, we're both recording remotely from our homes, but it's business as usual here. This is not a bad thing, of course. That it's giving onus to creativity and persistence now more than ever. I just am curious how you're personally adjusting to those new channels and how life has been going on for you. Because I know there's some people who say, well, it's easy for you. You're David Nagel. But as you said a moment ago, you started out with nothing years and years and years ago, and have you built yourself up to this position, and you're not going to apologize for that. But how have the channels and the transition to these channels affected you personally?
Well, in the very beginning, it was really interesting because if you remember when we were all working in the office and this first start, like we started hearing things about this thing, everybody, including myself, was kind of like, oh Jesus, here they go again. The news is, they're hyping something, really crazy. But then something caught my attention, and that it was big business was making very significant changes based on this virus. And I know that when you see something like that, there's something else going on. So I started investigating it. And one of the things that became very apparent to me, I started looking at if this is real, if this is actually going to happen, like a long-term thing, this could like tank my company. Like I could end up going out of business, which would cause me to have to start over when it's over. And I came home and I really thought about it for like a couple of days. And I was like, you know what? I am not going to lose everything that I built that really serves people and it serves me um, because of this situation. So I'm going to use every tool that I know of to find the opportunity to help people in this because I know that like when I worked with my mentor many years ago, he told me a couple things that were very important. Well, he told me a lot of things that were very important, but he said personal contact is the key to success. And after having many conversations with him, what he meant by that was that the opportunity lies in giving. Wherever we can find someone to help, that opens the door to opportunity that serve both sides. So when it really started, I mean, it only took a week, then it started to really ramp up. I'm like, that's it. We're changing everything. We're going right for how we can be part of the solution immediately. And that will allow us to, number one, serve in this time, and it'll give us the time to re-strategize how we're going to deal with the changes, because that's when things were changing by the hour those first couple of weeks, and we didn't know what that was going to look like, what the ramifications were. Would we have live events to do or not? First it was a couple of weeks, then it turned out it's going to be a couple of months. Now it's looking even longer than that. So my whole focus has been on um, caring for everybody in my family, making sure that they're okay, making sure I'm okay, making sure that everybody in my company is okay, and then how do we help people from there. And I'm not going to lie, it's an adjustment. Like it's a real adjustment to just be in the house. um, and really all I really have been doing for several weeks now is just working, which is getting to the point where that's not completely serving me anymore. I need to break that up a little bit. But I think that for the first few weeks, it was very necessary to make sure that we got a hold of everything, had a strategy in place, and moved out of crisis prevention and into long-term thinking about how we're actually going to deal with everything. So I mean, I'm in a really good place. I don't think I've gotten in a bad place around this at all. Um, and I do what's really like from an educational perspective and a historic perspective, the opportunities that are coming down the road like every day with this are extraordinary. But you have to be informed to find out about those opportunities. And you have to really be looking at it not from a self-serving place, uh, but how do I help in this situation? Because that's how you recognize the opportunities. And the people that are willing to step up and do that will be able to take advantage of those opportunities. So that's kind of where I am with it, you know. Um, and I'm looking to get out of the house a little bit, you know, like go for a walk, go on the waters, you know, something like that to just kind of break things up. I'm proactively taking action to do that.
Yeah, I love that you brought to light one of your core principles of who you are as a person, and that's how can I help this person? You know, that's been a core question that you've um, passed along to all of the members of our team. And I think it's important for people to know that, like, you were able to pivot and shift away from things you had planned on doing into being more of a giving role, which you're always so generous and gracious with your time and your information, but even more so now. And I can honestly say that I've probably never worked as much as I have worked in the last 3 weeks. And I know you can attest to that as well. But when we're doing what we're doing, I don't call it work. I call it being of service to someone who needs it. So that's why this podcast, it's great because, you know, we were sort of built for quarantine in a way because we can do whatever we do from wherever we're at. And
Right.
this is just proof to all of that. But you do still need to break the time up and go out for walks and get on the water and take care of yourself from that standpoint. I mean, my neighborhood has never been more lively than it is now. People are practicing social distancing, but you see families out for walks, you see kids in the yards, you hear
Yeah.
playful laughter. It's really interesting to see how this goes. And I had a moment this morning when I was sitting on the patio with Steph and we were having coffee, and I said, it's going to be really weird when this is all over. And I don't mean to say that from an insensitive standpoint again, but there's going to be some adjustment because, you know, the way we're doing things now is much different when we were doing them a month ago. So when it's over, I need to learn to stay present in this moment and realize that we are in a historical part of our lives, and it's teaching us to take pause. You know, I can almost envision this being like an annual thing, not from the death perspective or people getting sick, but when we have a handle on it and know how to counteract it with, you know, a shot or with some sort of medication. It's almost like the Europeans when they take a month of holiday, where they just take a break and they breathe a little bit and allow themselves to re-energize, because I feel like this is the earth's way of saying, hey, I'm going to slow you down and I'm going to have you appreciate the finer things that this life has. And that is what gratitude is all about.
Yeah.
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 Well, before we go, there's a 3-part series you did a few years back that I'd like to encourage all of our listeners to go back and listen to. You did a series called The 3 Stages of Gratitude, and those are episodes 37, 38, and 39. I'll put a link in the show notes for this inside so you can go back and listen to those, because it's David talking with a few members of our team about personal responsibility, what it means to be grateful, and to practice that attitude of gratitude every single day. And, you know, start today. Think about, you know, what you can be grateful for, who you can be grateful for, write it down, reach out, send a text, do what you can to move yourself out of the anger. And like David said in the episode, which I loved, anger is a natural emotion. If you're pissed, be pissed, but also understand that you can shift that into gratitude just as easily as anger. Anything you want to add, David, before we wind
No,
this down?
that's it. I think we said it. I would encourage everybody to listen to the follow up to this one, which is basically be on what do we do to stay positive, because it's not just positive thinking. I'm gonna show you a strategy that will not only keep you positive but keep you moving forward. So
That's great. Yeah, we'll tease that. That'll be down in a couple of days, and then people will be able to listen to that. It's a good complimentary to go back and listen to the 2 of these back to back over and
yeah,
over and over again.
yeah,
All
it
right.
is.
Well, thanks for coming inside, David.
Matt, my pleasure.
Hey, everyone, we hope you enjoyed this episode. It's always important out there to practice gratitude, no matter what your situation is. Speaking of gratitude, we would be extremely grateful if you would leave us a comment below. And of course, subscribe to the channel and share this with someone who could benefit. We all are feeling for people out there who are struggling with this, and we hope we are a ray of light during difficult times. Thanks again, and we can't wait to see you on the next one. Later.